This is the picture of our premises today. 50 years ago it was very different and consisted of an old laundry in a field. But let's start at the beginning. 51 years ago I was walking down Gentleman's Walk in Norwich during my lunch break from Flinders when this gentleman, old John, was selling the evening news. This fly sheet stopped me in my tracks. Within minutes I had decided to have a go and for the first time in my life be able to serve customers and deal directly with their problems. I required a shop with a room upstairs. I could then service wirelesses and hopefully TVs. This was my ambition. I was not interested in selling. In spite of a careful search with the help of several friends, nothing could be found. Then on my doorstep, a bare 100 yards from the wooden bungalow where I lived with my parents, I discovered that Mr. Freeman was thinking of giving up the laundry. My father hired the laundry field for his goats to graze on, 10 shillings a year, that's 50p. I straight away wrote to the owner and the reply came that I could purchase this for £400. This was half my savings. I bought it. Several years later I was able to purchase the house and the ground for another £400. I persuaded Mr. and Mrs. Freeman to let me have one room. A partition was fitted to make half of this the workshop and half the showroom. I purchased a van, the necessary tools, and I was broke. With my back to the wall, everything was removed from my mind except work. Before it was operational, a local farmer called in and was surprised at my enthusiasm. He said, "You've got to build a better mousetrap." I had heard the saying, and I said I will try. As soon as I could afford it, I purchased a radio telephone. The old windmill mast served as our first mast and put us in the lead with communications to the vans. The start of BBC television transmission was promised for February 1955, so we were all hard pushed to persuade customers to have their aerial erected before the scheduled transmission began. A demonstration film was shown every day. The quality was terrible. I remember well of Mr. Walker-Posick saying, "If that's television you can keep it." The shock came when the BBC announced that it would start programmes on February the 1st. As the big day approached, those who had invested in the television bought a Radio Times. The programme started at 3 p.m. with Women's Hour, then 15 minutes of Andy Pandy, a break for 45 minutes, the weather chart, newsreel, a programme on diving, a parlour game and a play, and then a 10 minutes interview, and then news, sound only. February the 1st arrived. The picture quality was still very poor, as the Alexandra Palace signal was picked up at Debenham, well outside the service area, then relayed by microwave link to Tagglestone, where it was fed into a temporary transmitter in a wooden shed with a temporary mast. Although the picture quality was poor, I shall never forget the thrill the customers had when they saw pictures in their own home for the first time. The thrill was catching, and it kept me going until the last call when it was long past bedtime. Then, when I was servicing this television for Mrs. Wetton at Whitton Green, Reedham, I realised that a rear adjustment was required. I put my hand round the back and caught my wrist on the fuse panel. I had already got hold of the bare volume control spindle, so the full force of the electricity was across my body. My muscles were taut and I could not leave go. My legs still worked, so I staggered backwards, but the main lead was so long it was still attached when I hit the wall behind me. I threw the television with full force until it and I hit the wall in front. The impact was enough to break the hold, pulling my right arm from the socket. I collapsed in a heap on the floor. Dr. Gray attended, and I learnt many years later that he had told his wife that he didn't think I would make it. But a graft of flesh from my chest to my wrist, much TLC from Sister Thompson and her nursing staff, 5 weeks later I was back at work, albeit with one arm in a sling. I did not waste my time because most of the staff, including some fellow patients, purchased TVs from me. Several are with us tonight. Luckily, Joe Plummer was working with me at the time, and he carried on for the 5 weeks while I was in hospital. Thank you, Joe. The Freemans retired, and the other half of the laundry was fitted out as a workshop, with the old boiler house displaying white goods. With TVs all breaking down 3 or more times a year, extra workshop space was needed. With no money, I went to the bank and asked for a loan of £600 to build a workshop. The manager, a gentleman in every respect, listened. and then said, "What is the value of your stock?" I told him, and he replied, "How did you value it?" I said, "What I paid for it." "No good, my boy," he replied. "What would it make under the hammer?" I left dejected, but even more determined to build a workshop. That advice has held me in good stead ever since. The bricks were purchased a third at a time. They didn't match. The bottom ones were locally made, soft red brick. The workshop was built. The stage payments were difficult to keep up, but I didn't borrow. We are still with the Lloyds. The manager and his assistant are with us tonight. There was much excitement as ITV was scheduled to start. This was the first 1,000-foot mast in this country, situated at Mendlesham. The first time we had seen adverts on TV. With the introduction of colour television, we needed more display area, so we built a showroom. The plans went over the land occupied by Mr. Freeman's house, so we built as much as we could without disturbing him. Mr. Freeman was living in this house, and the condition was deteriorating rapidly. I contacted the local housing manager, and he was able to make a sheltered housing bungalow available. I saw Mr. Freeman, and he point blank refused to go. The housing manager saw him, and he got the same response. The house was held for him for 6 months. Then I was advised to evict him, and he would then be forcibly mowed. How could I evict an old man? He stayed until he died. The housing manager is here. Thank you, Basil. After Mr. Freeman departed, we added an extension to our showroom. This was used as a store for colour TVs and a colour TV workshop. More and more TVs were being sold and rented, and as it became necessary to buy in bulk, more space was needed, so a store was built. This picture showed my mother and first wife Sheila, together with many others, and the Philips rep. I went to America and was bitten by the satellite bug. The only satellite receivable here was the Russian Gorazon. I purchased a dish, handmade, and fitted it. That night it was stolen. This was one of our early satellite installations. A German lady who wanted her local TV station. We supplied the UEA with a satellite system which feeds to a language laboratory.
A dish on the university roof picks up signals from a satellite 23,000 miles above the equator. What sounds like an Italian soap opera comes out of a television monitor in the School of Modern Languages and European History. A bank of 6 monitors in the university shows the offerings from television stations in France, Germany, Holland, Belgium, Italy and Switzerland. Television from outer space is offering a new dimension to language students at the university. Reception's remarkably good, and the university is keen to make use of technology likely to cost it only £2,000 or £3,000.
With the coming of BSB, this seemed to be the satellite solution, and we were all so enthusiastic and successful. So successful that BSB sent a film crew with a presenter to film us.
Well, it started in the early 80s when I heard about the Russian satellite, Gorazon, which was the only one up there at the time, and it was something new to us, and we liked to keep the adrenaline moving with the engineers, and we bought a dish. The first night it was pinched. As you walked in, you probably saw the first television I bought, which was a 9-inch poly, and before that an Echo radio, which was the first mains radio my parents had. Television was a British invention, and everything British is up my street, really. It's got the best quality picture, obviously, with Mac, which is the most advanced television system in the world, and it's high quality sound. I mean, it's got everything going for it, really. What more can I say? I can't fault it, quite honestly.
Then a week after this film was made, it went bankrupt. We had large stocks of dishes and receivers, and our friends at the Inland Revenue could not understand why. I had a bad year. I went along backed up by our auditors. All the time the Lloyds manager's words were echoing through my mind. What would it make under the hammer? I did not use those words, but they understood. Well, almost. 10 years ago, with service increasing, we purchased a piece of land to build a new workshop. Each room dedicated to TV, VCR, satellite and audio repairs. For the first time, we had a room staffed to take phone calls and route them to the nearest mobile engineer. Recently, we have started a new venture, Snelling Business Systems, to supply, install and service high-tech equipment to businesses, educational authorities, councils, etc. Totally Wise is in charge, and he has worked incredibly hard at building a better mousetrap. We have commenced servicing TVs on the moon. This was our first aborted landing after a successful mission. Most of you will know that this company is now administered by a charitable trust, and I have made every effort to ensure that the people and community to benefit from this enterprise in the future will be those that, through their loyalty and support, have made this company what it is today. The hundreds and perhaps thousands of thank you letters that we have received indicates that we are on the right track. My sincere thanks go out to all those who have helped us over the last 50 years. I must mention my first wife, Sheila, who was obsessed with business as much as I was, and for my second wife, Judy, who tolerates an 80-year-old man who still works. Thank you.